Everybody. How's it going? How is everybody? I am, of course, Mr. Malice. Welcome to the Malice Experience. Not under me this time. He's not a bottom this time. He's right next to me. Is Mystic Salah.
That's only when I'm drunk.
So we will be having a guest this evening for the second half of the show. So most of you have probably seen him in the chat at some point. He's our resident Christian.
I dated a Christian once. Oh, wait, that was his name. I'm sorry.
So he has been trying to get on the show for a minute now because he wants to save our souls. So we thought we'd give him an opportunity to do so. So that should make for some good fucking content. At least I think so. He's the only Christian crazy enough to get on the show with a Satanist and a pagan.
It says a lot.
Right? Well, it does. It does, actually. It does. It says a lot. Either he's very open or very crazy. Maybe a little bit of both. It's possible. Well, hey, it is what it is, right? So we do have a topic that we will be discussing, but I don't expect this topic to kind of last 2 hours, which is the length of the show. So I think it good to kind of bring. It goes by, was it Mark 5? Mark 5, yep. Right? Okay, Mark 5. Yeah, Mark 5. Yeah, so to bring Mark 5 on is Mark 5, Mike 5. Yeah, he has exactly. Right? Ooh. Big old Jesus cojones. Cojones, Jesus. But as always, when it is just a show that starts out with myself and Mystic is going to take the reins here and hook us up with our weekly reading and our weekly tarot deck. So what do you got for us?
I'm running out of tarot decks.
How the fuck we have not done 180 shows, 200 shows for you to run out of tarot decks.
You're up to 210. Tonight, it just kind of in the spirit of the season that we are in bulk, from the pagan, Wiccan, and, well, actually quite a few traditions, more than just those. A lot of Welsh influence. I had Brad, otherwise known as Rook, we don't care, everybody knows her name, pick a deck, and he got mad at me when I didn't pick the deck he wanted, so I went back and changed my mind so that my liquor can keep coming. And we went with the Druid Tarot. Druid Craft Tarot. I'm sorry. So Druid Craft, if anybody has any interest in the Druid nature way of things, the Druid Craft is kind of a mix of bringing witchcraft into Druidry. Those two things are very separate. So you can be a Druid, not a witch not a Druid, obviously, or you can be a Druid witch. That's a thing. Don't necessarily consider myself that, but it is a really neat deck. Oh, I should have said who it was by. Somebody. It was by somebody. Philip and Stephanie Cargom. So those actual individuals have quite a few decks. So, but anyway, the number one thing I hate about this deck is the size. While I do like many big things, card decks are not one of them. They're very hard to shuffle. So I end up getting frustrated and just bend the crap out of them to make them shuffle well because I need to shuffle really good. They're also bordered, which is not something that I'm a fan of either, but the cards themselves are actually pretty cool. Standard arcana, you got your major and minor, you've got pentacles, you've got swords, you've got I want to see if they did chalices or wands, of course. All right, I've pulled 7 random cards and have yet to find a water card. Holy crap. Okay, that says something. Cups, yeah. So normal suits. Reversible back, pretty basic, just a little bit of some Celtic style knots and a couple of other designs. A little bit of infinity symbols. And again, good card stock, decent deck here. Standard deck. The imagery is a neat watercolor style imagery, art. Pretty cool. I like it. Nifty. And we're going to use these today to do a read for the upcoming week. And when we do the read for the mother heifers didn't shuffle the way I want them to. Are we in 5 minutes yet? Because I'm feeling like cursing. I'll wait another minute.
No, we're 17 minutes in, so I think you're good.
All right, well, this shit's getting on my nerves already. It won't shuffle. Contrary to popular belief, I actually am in a meditated state, but prior to our discussion. So hopefully we'll get some energy. I will tell you, the yearly energy that we did back earlier in January is starting to already make sense and pan out to me. We talked about some of the energies for the year, less about getting things done and more about situating everything in the exact right spot so that we can hit off running. So we'll see what comes up next in the cards. Minster Malice. Like Munster cheese. Oh, Minster. All right, our first card is the Ten of Cups. Go figure. I couldn't find a cup out of when I was looking to show a couple. And now I've got the Ten of Cups, Three of Cups, and the Magician. All of these can be considered partial water cards. So let's talk about them first. And since I didn't really like pull examples of cards, sorry, my dog just hit my foot. I'm going to show them to you first before we talk about them. We have the Ten of Cups. Anybody has any difficulty reading tarot? At the bottom, it says 10. That's how I know it's a 10. And it says cups. That's how I know it's cups. And then there's 10 cups there. Kind of goes together. Not all decks do that. Three of Cups. And I just hit a button on my screen, and now I can't see anything. Three of Cups also has words on it, Three of Cups, and there's 3 cups. And then our third card is the Magician. And this is actually a really good card to give us some interesting movement into this next week. And I agree, rookie. The cups showing up in the actual read after looking for one and not being able to find one was pretty interesting. So we are certainly coming into time of water. I would say I look at things very elementally, process senses through elements when I do meditations and when I do work with deities. So I have known for a while that we've needed water in our lives and more water. And that's one of the reasons why doing a lot of things that are water related at home. But for the group, for the Ten of Cups, we're talking about, and this, by the way, now that I'm saying it out loud, the Ten of Cups has been in like every reading with a different deck each time, in like the last 4 or 5 readings that Rook and I both have done. That's interesting. It was in the reading we did the other day, Brad. Rook, whatever. So your Ten of Cups is talking about the energy of fulfillment of things that are emotional. One of our topics tonight, as most people might have seen, is hope. Hope is an emotional response to something. We're going to talk about that. But the Ten of Cups would be about the fulfilled hope of that. So over the next week, look at things that are around you that would give you hope or design or push your hope forward into actually achieving something that you're trying to do. Maybe you're at the end of working on something. You've been feeling a certain way. That's going to stop. You're going to come through that this week. The Three of Cups is very important because it's a focus on friendship and on the people that are around you and having a good time. This is definitely a week to meet with friends from college or from high school or whatever that you liked. Don't meet with the ones you didn't like because that won't go well. Meet with the ones you liked. Pick up some new, or not rekindle, because you don't rekindle, that's romance. You reconnect with some friends and go out, have a drink, do something fun, make it easy, and spend a little bit of time, doing things that you enjoy that give you emotional fulfillment. That's going to be very important this week. And in the end, we have the Magician. So this would be the ongoing energy for the week. The Magician is all about manifestation and actually doing it. One of the neat things in Magician cards, in almost every deck that I have in some way, shape, or form, you're going to see every element represented, every suit represented in here. You have the cups for water, you have the swords for air, you have the wand for fire, and you have the pentacle for earth. And then you have the individual representing the spirit and the connection of everything else. Also, with Stonehenge in the back, it's kind of cool. So this is saying all of the information, all of the things, all of the tools, all of the magic, all of the everything you already have. Now it's time to actually use it and put it into motion. So this week is a do week. This is a get to the end of what you've been hoping and trying to do. Go out with some friends, have a good time, get some reset in, and make sure that you already recognize that you have everything that you need to get done what you're trying to get done. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Well, damn.
That 10 of Cups, man, has been coming up, and I'm not kidding. Every read that we've done for both of us in a different deck each time. I don't understand it. Maybe I need some like $10 million or something in my life.
Or just more alcohol.
Yeah, that'll work.
I mean,
Not a bad concession prize.
right? Exactly. You know.
This is a really cool deck. I haven't used it too much, but we use it a lot in our circles to just draw single cards when we're trying to discuss different things and going through stuff. So that's pretty cool. I almost did the Odin in the Nine Realms Oracle, but I'll save that for next time. Pretty neat deck.
There you go. All right, so to jump into this evening's topic. So this evening's topic is hope for the weak. So I was watching some of our peers here on YouTube. I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to start any drama or anything like that. Some of you may know the person by what I'm going to be talking about. Some of you may not, and if you do, don't say anything.
No more drama. Sorry. I'm in a mood.
I can tell. So basically, there was one of our peers that I was watching some of their videos, and a topic kind of came up in the video, in the discussion about hope, and that those on the left-hand path do not subscribe to the idea of hope, that hope is for the weak, that if you try to be hopeful, you are, weak. Now, me personally, as a practitioner of the left-hand path, I do not subscribe to this idea. I do not agree with this idea. I do not agree that, as magicians of the left-hand path, as occultists, that we must relinquish all hope in our lives. Now, I do believe that the idea or the concept is being met to say, like, we don't have kind of like false hopes or like empty hopes. Like we don't put our hope into another being, that being is going to take care of things for us, that we take the responsibility of being responsible for ourselves, our lives, and where it is that we are in our lives. And if we are in a position that we don't like, it is our responsibility to change that. So I do believe that that's where it was coming from. I'd like to believe that's where it was coming from, but that wasn't stated. That wasn't clarified. It was a very cut and dry statement that, people of the left-hand path do not subscribe to the idea of hope. And I think, it's a very relevant question to sit and ask, as practitioners of the left-hand path, as left-hand, like magicians of the left-hand path, do we relinquish certain emotional responses? Are we capable of relinquishing certain emotional responses? Like, can we, logically, do that? Can we turn off certain emotions that, we've felt our entire lives? Let's face it, most of us have not been born into the left-hand path, but, found it on our own, right? So that being so, we're not Mr. Spock over here, So I'm curious, where this discussion could lead as to whether or not, as members of the left-hand path, are we required to relinquish certain emotions? I don't believe so. I would wholeheartedly disagree with that statement. But Mystic, what do you think?
Well, I didn't see the video or the whatever it was, so I don't know who it is. my first thing that comes to my mind whenever we talk about things like this, like hope, like my brain says, okay, are we talking about the kind of hope that drives human beings to the next level? Or are we talking about like, I hope that happens instead of, which I'm not left hand path specifically, I'm just pagan. Um, but is it coming from a place of saying, as a left hand path practitioner, that you don't hope for things, you do them? You don't ask for somebody else to provide something, you go out and do it. That's the first thing that came to my mind. I don't know if I don't know how that would be received specifically, but that's what I think of. So it doesn't sound to me like it's necessarily, again, I didn't see it, so I don't know. But my thought would be, yeah, I can understand somebody saying that in certain situations. You know what? Don't hope that your job gets better, your life gets better, make it better, right? But if you're talking about hope as an actual human emotion, then I think that would be very, 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 very silly to um, say that that's not it, or to even to say to relinquish an emotion. I would have to think that the video or the individual that was having the conversation was thinking of it from that perspective and not one of the other, because that's just it doesn't make much sense. For me, hope is the precursor for almost every action that you do. You are hungry and you hope to get some food, you go get it. But you still have that moment where it may or may not be attainable. That's hope. You want to hope towards something. It's a bad example. Somebody says, I hope to get a new job, then that means that they are, hopefully going out and trying to get it versus hoping that it's going to come to them. So that's a different perspective of it. So, it depends really on the context for me. But I don't know, relinquishing hope as an emotion even registers in my mind as a potential for anybody. If somebody says that they have no hope, then that itself is an expression of the emotion or lack thereof. Like you know what I mean? Like it does. It's not one of those things that it either does or doesn't exist. It's there all the time. It's just what level is it? And again, is it talking about hoping that something happens versus the action of doing it, or having hope for a brighter future or hope for a better life? Those things are a little different.
I mean, I've always thought that like hope is the thing that, as human beings, I think hope is the thing that drives us. Just in general, like the hope that things are going to be better. You're going to be able to get the things that you want. Like you can put the work in and still have hope. Like to put your own work into kind of getting what it is that you need out of life doesn't mean that you're not hopeful, because things can still go wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, hope is more than just the emotion of wanting something or wanting something to happen or doing something.
Exactly.
It's a state. It's not just an emotion or an outward, you know, desire. There's a lot more. It depends on the context. Like I hope I wake up in the morning. Not an emotion. It would suck if I didn't. I wouldn't know the difference. But I hope I wake up in the morning, or I hope I get promoted to a new job. Well, that I can see somebody saying, don't hope you get a new job or a better job. Go out and do whatever you need to do to make it happen. It's a different context. It's a little bit different than the
Exactly.
emotion, I think. So
But this is also kind of leads me into kind of like this concept is like if there are people out there that believe that those of us on the left hand path should relinquish the idea or concept of hope, what other emotional responses or reactions should we also relinquish? Like if that's a thing. Like
yeah,
I don't think that being on the left hand path makes us less human. I think being on the left hand path makes us more human, in my opinion. I mean, being somebody on the left hand path, I mean, I'm kind of biased here, but I think being on the left hand path allows us to kind of be more open, with our humanity, to understand the duality of being human, like the how everything spins and moves. We have that understanding of that balance. I've always explained and I've always said that the left-hand path is about understanding the balance of the universe around you, the light and the dark, the masculine and the feminine, all of these things. And I fully believe that being on the left-hand path provides us with a certain amount of insight that I will go as far as saying that I personally believe that others lack. Because
I
there's
take that
a certain
personally offensive.
Well, let me finish. Okay.
You already said it.
Well,
Kidding.
So the thing is like, and I think that others lack it, like within certain circumstances, because, well, there's a certain stigma and fear that comes along with the other side of things. Like, so when we look at the idea of, right-hand religions, right, the right-hand path, which I guess would be Christianity and Catholicism and Judaism and all of these, and probably even Wicca. You can throw that in the boat right there. With all of those, there is a certain stigma or fear that kind of goes into talking about the things that we do. Working with demons. I remember when I was younger, reading books on Wicca and things like that. There was a lot of talk about, like in books, working with angelic forces and things like that. Almost never do they ever mention working with demonic forces. Baphomet is almost never labeled as Baphomet. Baphomet is always looked at as Kronos or some other type of horned god. Karunos, right? You're the one that's your patron deity, right?
Karunos.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Or Pan or something along those lines. But almost never is Baphomet like really kind of like brought to light and actually looked at directly, like, depending on the books that you're looking at. And so I think that being in the left-hand path, we don't have those stigmas. We don't have those preconceived ideas that, oh well, this is evil and this is dangerous and bad things are going to happen if I start meddling with these things. No, the whole fucking point is to meddle. Meddle as much as you possibly can. Poke the bear. That's the idea. If the bear fucking swings around and rips your fucking face off, that's a consequence of poking the bear. But at least we're aware of the possibility and we understand that if you do it the right way, you have a really big, powerful bear on your side. So I don't think that we're void of hope. I don't think that we should be void of hope. I would love to tell you who said this, but the thing is, again, I don't want this to turn into a bickering match, between two content creators. People are allowed to have their own ideas. But I do think that this was something that probably should talk about. I think that somebody should be presenting a different idea out there, because I haven't seen anybody else talk about this concept or this idea. So I don't think that we should be void of any emotions. I don't think we are void of any emotions. And I think this is part of like the education process on the left-hand path that is absolutely necessary for us to succeed in the coming years and decades, is for people to understand that because we are Satanists or on the left-hand path or whatever it is that we're believing in, we call in the powers of the demons, the Ars Goetia, by the way, Mystic, show off your shirt.
No, I'm mad at you.
Oh, come on. So the Goetiamon shirts are out. Goetiamon.
This is the smoke and small, because I'm a small. Just kidding.
So
I'm definitely not a small.
So they're there. You can get them. There's two versions. There's that one, and there's one with the Demon Lord, what I call the Demon Lord on it, which is holding the demon ball, right? I can't call it a
I think Rook just laughed at me because I said it was a small. That's really rude.
So, yeah, I think that to sit there and say that, we should, like, for anyone to sit there and say that we shouldn't be hopeful or we shouldn't, live in a place of hope, I think it's irresponsible. And I think we need to be very careful about the things that we say. I really do. I think that it's comments like that people can take out of context and then manipulate them to serve, different purposes to kind of make us look horrible. And the problem with this comment is it could be taken out of context, but there's no context provided, right? So when somebody takes that comment and they throw that one little giblet out there, I fully agree, Brett. Brett, I mean, the Order of Baphomet, there are only 3 tenets to the Order of Baphomet, and it is learn, teach, and silence. Those are your 3 tenets. It is learn as much as you can from everyone you can. Teach those that you are able to teach and are willing to learn. And if you can't learn and you can't teach, be silent. Because then one of those 2 opportunities will present themselves. So, Sister Despair, welcome.
Welcome.
So, I think there is a certain amount of responsibility. I mean, I'll come out and say it. There's a certain amount of responsibility that I myself am taking on for the community. Currently, I had a conversation with a couple of other practitioners, and there's a very real comment that was made that currently we don't have a community. Currently, we are in a position where a lot of the time we're at each other's throats. A lot of the time we're starving for drama and trying to stir it up wherever we can. And I've been guilty of that, and many of us have been guilty of that at different occasions for different reasons. And honestly, we need to stop. And I am openly taking on a lot of responsibility for the community. Why am I taking on a certain responsibility for the community is because I want to see us do better, because I know we can do better. We are some of the most intelligent, most powerful, most amazing people on this fucking planet. And we deserve to be respected and recognized for what it is that we are, not be demonized through Hollywood, the media, and other misconceptions. I'm tired of us being the scapegoat. Like when you're 15 years old, it's fun. It's fun when you're 15 years old and you're wearing your pentagram and you're walking around middle school, you're walking around high school with your pentagram out, and everybody's saying stupid shit like, oh, he kills cats. Oh, he sacrifices people. Because it's stupid bullshit. In high school, you don't think past the nose on your face, right? You don't think past it. You're like, oh, it's cool. There's these stupid idiots. They don't know shit. But here as adults, some decades later, that shit catches up to you. That shit catches, exactly. That shit catches up to you. I mean, I know this is like the 3rd or 4th time I've mentioned it. Mystic isn't even fucking left-hand path, and this motherfucker almost lost his goddamn job for being pagan. So, go ahead.
The bigger issue is always going to be the sound. People don't suck, but people suck. I mean, and I've said this before. I think we've talked about, like, it's a condition of the human being. In many cases, it doesn't matter what. You could follow the up path, the down path, the green path, whatever path. The world is full of idiots who are selfish and only are looking out for themselves. And when I say selfish, I'm not talking about doing what you can to better yourself. I'm talking about actively selfish to exclude other people. How they grow, it's how they make themselves feel better, because they were probably raised by asshole parents. And not everybody is in a different place, in a different situation, a different thing that's going on in their life.
Yep.
What is frustrating about it to me is when we get to a place as an individual and you're starting to learn. I understand why, but I don't understand why it is necessary in any way, shape, or form to reach out to somebody to push them further down, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like it just doesn't. And I know that a couple people made the comments about being open minded. That's huge. But it's not just being open minded, and it's much more than that. And it's not just a left hand path community or alternative community. It's just allowing people to fucking be in their space. Like we don't allow other people to excel at being themselves, and that is the thing that drives me nuts. And that coincides with hope in a very real way. It's when you don't have that space or that community and you need it, that's when you lose hope. And that's when you no longer have the drive to try to do better for yourself. And we all cycle in that, I think. I think everybody cycles in and out of that sometimes where you feel like you don't have hope and then you do and then things go whatever. But it doesn't make sense to me why anybody would spend so much energy to put something out. And now that's me emotionally. My brain understands it. Why? Because people are selfish. People screw up. They want to make sure that they get the biggest piece of cake at dinner, after dinner, unless you eat cake for dinner, whatever. But when we're younger, like you said, we like that outcast. Some people do. Not all of us get along with it, but that outcast feeling, it's like, I'm not like them, and that's part of it. And I don't think people realize that either. Especially, and it's younger and younger. It used to be when I was 15, I acted that way. Now it's when kids were 8, they act that way. It's that enjoyment of being the outcast because I can identify that I'm not like that person who's only worried about having the best book bag or the trapper keeper, whatever the kids are in these days. Probably the best cell phone at this point. I don't know. I'm old. Point is, it's those things that we enable and we put into the next generations. We have an opportunity now where younger people are coming into being pagan or left hand path or whatever they're moving into. And you got to set an example for them, whether you feel like it's your responsibility or not. And this is where it comes into caring about other people and putting other people first. It doesn't mean you're negating your own needs or holding back your own needs. It's becoming part of the community so that the community can continue. And I see that community as a very, very huge, wide open community, and has lots of people in it, lots of different people in it with different beliefs. But you got to start somewhere.
Exactly. And Brett, to answer your question, so Brett asked, what is the ideal way to both build and promote the LHP community in today's world? How can we rebuild what we once had as a spectrum? So the first thing...
Everybody should have a cute gay pagan nearby. That's first.
I'm covered. I got you, like, chilling out in the fucking shadows. He's like Golem. He's like in his cave.
Hey,
and he comes out every Saturday night. My precious.
I am MIA during the week.
So, but the thing is, I think the thing is, the first thing is education, because we have once again where things were starting to kind of get serious in like the early 2000s. I would say like late 90s, early 2000s, where people started taking witchcraft in general seriously, right? And that started kind of like with the whole Wicca thing, and then the military kind of accepted it because there were people that were trained in the military that were Wiccan, and because of like funeral rites and shit like that, they had to actually, as a nation, the United States had to recognize it as an actual religion. Same thing with Satanism. But one of the things where we kind of keep hitting a wall now is everything is starting to splinter off so much. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying it shouldn't splinter off. I think you should do what you feel you should do as a person that makes you feel comfortable in what it is that you're doing. I think that is extremely important, because it is an individual path. It is a path of the solitary practitioner. But at the same time, within that, we do exist inside of a community. And I think
we have a community, and I'm not going after Baphomet. Like, that's not my deity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people need that pointed out, but it's just an example.
So the thing is what's happening is, because of that, because it is a solitary practitioner's kind of like game, we've splintered off so much and gotten to the point where we're cannibalizing each other. And so what happens is when we start cannibalizing ourselves inside of our own community, you don't stand a chance against the Christians and the Catholics and the Protestants and the Baptists, because at the end of the day, think about it. Think about it. You've got all of those groups that I just mentioned, plus more, okay? And they all do their own thing, and they all talk shit about each other. But at the end of the day, when it comes to us, they are unified against us. They are unified against all of us. Okay? So the thing here is the first thing is education. Not about what it is that we do, not about necessarily our practices or how we do a ritual, but rather what we don't do. Okay? What we don't do. Because there's a lot going around out there that has been going around since the 70s or before that's still a fucking it's still the staple. That we sacrifice animals, that we sacrifice people, that we do any number of horrendous things in the name of our devils. And it doesn't matter if you're a Wiccan and you don't worship demons, you still worship the devil, according to the Christians and the Catholics. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, we're all worshiping the devil, according to the unified Christian rite. And because of our fractured nature, because of the idea that we're cannibalizing ourselves, individually, for some reason, most of us don't fucking notice that it's happening. Like, I don't understand why people don't notice. I don't know if they're just not paying attention. They don't give a shit. I don't know. But what happens is the Christians, the evangelicals, they see it happening. They see it happening every day that we cannibalize ourselves. And our internal conflict with each other is the fuel to their fire. Okay? It's the fuel to their fire. It is the reason behind everything that they say bad about us. Everything that makes every single person fear us, walk on the other side of the street. And here's the thing. Some of us might actually think that that's kind of cool. Somebody sees me walking down the street and they go, oh, shit, and they go to the other side. It's like, well, fuck that person. That's a very juvenile way of looking at things. People need to understand what it is that we do and what it is that we don't do. And the only way that we're going to do that is through education. And the only way that we're going to educate is that if we ourselves, with the thousands of different facets that we have, can show a equally unified front when it comes to these things. You want to know something? Everybody, I will say one thing, Benjamin, when it comes to labels. It bothers me when people say that they don't like labels. Because we label everything. Everything has a label. And it's the way that we understand the nuances and the differences between us. Okay? Because the thing is true. The thing is, for example, Mystic. Mystic's just human. He's also gay. Gay
Human
is
also a label.
Human is also a label. But the thing is those are labels that we don't fight against. We don't go, oh, I fucking hate labels. I'm not gay. I'm just human. I like dick, but I'm not gay. It's like,
we don't define ourselves. The problem is defining yourself as that one label and not recognizing that I have a bucket full of 10,000 labels. Today, I'm probably slightly annoying because I had extra coffee. Tonight, I'm going to be drunk. Those are all labels. They give me a framework to understand that certain thing. Like, I enjoy being part of the LGBTQIA plus or whatever acronyms they add. I don't care. The more they add in there, the better, because there's more people included. But the label allows me as an individual to know that I have somebody there that's on my side that I can comfort or come with. The problem is when that's the only label you have and you don't recognize all the other amazing labels that are in there. Like, I am now a member of the Bifocal Club. I have gray hair in my beard. Didn't have that. I'm old. I'm middle-aged. I think I had a middle-aged breakdown. I just don't remember it because I have amnesia. or
So
dementia, one of the two.
one of the two. So the thing is, when it comes to labels, we all have them. We all use them. It's not edgy. It's not cool to sit there and say, well, I don't like labels and I don't like. Yeah, you do. Somewhere down the line, you label something, right?
You don't like being boxed in.
We don't like
boxed.
and the thing is like, you don't, just because you have a label doesn't mean it is the label that defines you, just like what Mystic is saying, right? I am left-hand path, a philosophical Satanist, okay? That does not define me as a person. It is an aspect of my personality and who I am as a person. It is a part of that, but it is not the definition of who I am. Okay, I also call myself goth. Again, being goth, that is not the definition of me. So I think that labels are okay. And I think that the more we open up to accepting those nuances and those aspects of ourselves openly instead of fighting against it, the easier it's going to say, well, this is what and who I am, or a part of who I am, and I enjoy this aspect of myself. I'm a metalhead, but I also like rap music. Yes, I love metal music. It's my favorite genre, but I also listen to rap music. Being a metalhead does not mean that I exclusively listen to heavy metal music. So I think we need to kind of stop restricting ourselves, right? And looking at our labels as boxes and look at them as liberating factors to help other people understand different aspects about ourselves.
Yeah, and so two things. One, the first thing that comes to mind is, would it be better to say I don't like, instead of I don't like labels, is I don't like when other people mislabel me, because that means they don't understand me.
That's good.
Is maybe a better way, that I see, is in my opinion anyway. But the other thing is, sometimes having labels, for example, Malice labeling himself as left-hand path, me labeling myself as left-hand path adjacent, because I'm not left-hand path but pagan, is a very, very important label for both of us to have, in order for us to allow others to see how the community can work together without being the same person. Those labels are important in our case. I find it important to label myself as pagan, because it lets other people recognize that, especially if they're in my circle, maybe they're on the edge of my circle, we're not friends yet, they're there, and one of those people that's in that circle is also pagan, but they're not, willing to talk about it in front of other people. They can come to me later and say, hey, I'm pagan too. I want to pick your brain about something. So there is benefits to it, and probably went into that way deeper than it needed to be. But I think it's really about, I don't like it when other people mislabel me, because I like it when they call me nice or label me nice. I don't like it when they label me an asshole. Well, kind of don't care, but that's the idea.
And so,
Melvin's right, by the way.
And paranormal witch. So that's actually a really good question, right? So how do we try to get other religions to accept us and what we believe in if they don't give us a chance? So here's the thing. The first thing that needs to be understood on every level is that you cannot, not a single person on this planet can force any other human being to believe or think anything that they are not willing to think. It is absolutely impossible to do. There is nothing. You can present information, and in the light of new information, people can change their ideas if they so choose. Which is why the education aspect of this is so important. The learning and teaching aspect of this is quintessential. It is indispensable, because the only thing we can do is, in the right manner, put forth the information, put forth the education, and those who wish to pick it up and learn it will pick it up and learn it. Those that wish to accept it, and accept it in such a way that they mean that they're not against it, they will do so. But just because we see a lot of people turning away and not accepting the pamphlet, so to speak, okay, doesn't mean you give up. It doesn't mean that you give up. It doesn't mean that you stop trying. Because we need to show that passion for who we are. Because if you truly believe and what it is that we're talking about. If you are left-hand path, if you are Wiccan, if you are, whatever path you so choose, and you, with the passion of life, believe in what it is that you practice, it is not a task or a job to educate people on it. It is an opportunity to open eyes and minds to a different perspective that they may not have seen before, because you are the first point of contact for a foreign concept for these people. And I know that a lot of us like to be the aggressors. We like to take the defensive position and go at it and say to the Christian or to the Catholic, it's your hell, you burn in it. But if instead of acting like we're 15 again, or as much fun as it is to have a moment in our youth, if we take the step back,
time ago.
Right? If we take the step back, 20 years for me.
25.
So if we take the step back and we take that deep breath in and we take that opportunity to sit there and say, well, hold on a second. You want to explain to me what it is that you believe. Could we maybe have an exchange of ideas? Could you explain to me what your idea is, and that I can also explain to you what it is that is my idea? Create an opportunity for discussion. Create an opportunity for education to happen. I know that many of us have been wronged, mistreated, and just cast aside by people in the church of any denomination. Okay? I know that is a thing that many of us have suffered. But I do believe that there is an opportunity through what it is that we're doing here and beyond to continue a perpetual course of education to the public, because it is imperative. It is so important for us to be able to defend ourselves logically and calmly in moments of stress and potential danger. And when I talk about potential danger, okay, the media mislabels us all the time. They misrepresent us all the time. So I know I've mentioned this before, but the media, when the two murders happened in England and that started circulating, the media very blatantly put in their reports left-handed Satanism as a new sector of Satanism that was violent and dangerous.
Dude, I rewatched that video and it made me even more angry the second time, like a couple days ago.
Mm-hmm.
I can't watch it. Ridiculous.
Again. So that's dangerous. We're here. We are here as a community together. You are my community, and at large, we are just a community, right? So those of you here, right, we are a community together. Okay, and it is with that we all believe a little bit different. Some of us hail Lucifer. Some of us hail Baphomet. Some of us hail Lilith. Some of us hail the toilet. I don't know. But at the end of the day, no matter who your altar is dedicated to, we are together in this. We are one unit. We are together. We are not on separate playing fields. We are not on different levels. And the sooner we understand that, the sooner we recognize that, the better things are going to become for us. Brett, hey. The basic, that's kind of like the basis of, atheistic Satanism. Hail yourself. I hailed my toilet last night. I
I
actually
love
said
it.
it. I knew somebody was going to come out with something like that, and that's what I wanted.
Uh, that's
You know,
that's that's how you should live life. You hail yourself, hail the toilet, hail yourself, back and forth. That's all you need.
Taco Bell.
Oh God, Th-
So
that train derailed fast.
right, didn't it? But I think I do think it is extremely important that we understand that despite our differences, we are the same. We're not going against each other, and nor should we be going against each other. And I am pushing forward, and I'm in conversations with certain people to create the first, or what I believe to be the first, because I've looked for it and I haven't found anything, the first occult, I don't know what you want to call us, but not a coalition. That's a bad word.
The loose association of cultists.
Something of that nature. So essentially it's going to be like the ACLU, but for
We're all
occultism.
human adjacents.
Yeah, it's like the ACLU, but for like occult, like the occultists, for magicians, for the left-hand path, for all of us. Right? It is, we are creating an organization that will view over as much information as humanly possible, provide links to vetted information, what we dictate to be vetted information. Doesn't mean you can't look up other shit. If you want to look up other shit, go for it. That's on you. We can't look up everything. We can't research everything. But we are going to provide as much information and education as humanly possible to the masses. Obviously, first starting out with a website. And from there, we're going to keep growing. And if people come to us and say, well, this organization is doing this thing, which could be an illegal activity and potentially dangerous to others, we will step in and we will call them out. If news organizations mislabel us and say things about us that is dangerous and threatening to us as a community, we will legally combat them and force them to change what it is that they are saying. That is what we are creating. I have already started taking the first steps to do this. And I am building the panel of people that will be in charge of this. And it is only going to be people that are level-headed, calm, and are not out for a vendetta. That is the most important thing. These are people that are not out to make a point. These are people that want to protect what it is that we all love and cherish. And that is this community and our beliefs. And to make sure that our governments and other organizations and other people do not damage what we have been building together for damn near hundreds of years. That's another good idea there, Brett. That is definitely something that I could definitely we can definitely look into doing. I like that idea, and it would allow other people to kind of contribute and kind of add their own information in on certain things.
Can I not derail this conversation? This is extremely serious, not really just fun. But anyway, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I use Teams at work, and it has a section for Wiki. I know what Wikipedia is. The fuck is a wiki? Like, is it
Wikipedia?
like Wikipedia? Is that what wiki is?
Like, it is. Yeah, it's Wikipedia.
I mean, I know Wikipedia is Wikipedia, but there are things called wikis. Like, you can go in other systems, and there's a wiki section.
Yeah, but it's all kind of part of like the whole kind of like the same parent.
Okay.
Like WikiLeaks.
God, I sound like,
for example.
I sound like one of those old people that talks about they don't know how to turn on their cell phone. Sorry, I really didn't want to derail the conversation, but I meant to ask that the other day. Like, I don't. I don't get it because I know how Wikipedia works, right? You know, people have access to it. There's certain people that contribute, and it can be right. It can be fact checked. I think that's a great idea. But I wonder how you'd set something like that up. That's
So
like gilded on steroids.
So I can't. So basically, essentially, yes. So basically, guys, this is the idea. This is what I can do, me as a person. I can't ask anyone else to do what it is that I do, or want to do what it is that I want to do with the community. The only thing that I can do is create what it is that I want to create for the community. And for those that want to be a part of what it is that I'm trying to create, they're more than welcome to join and be a part of what it is that I'm trying to create. And what I am trying to do is I am trying to create a shield that is going to protect us from misinformation and the potential of people being violent or harmful towards us because of misrepresentation and misinformation that is spread through the public. I'm essentially throwing myself out there to be put on the guillotine before anybody else. Now, I hope that it doesn't come to that, but that is the idea of what it is that I'm trying to do to start out with. Because these news reports, and I'm going to keep reiterating this, and there have been numerous reports in the news from years and years ago. Go back to the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, okay? There have been report after report after report that has been openly accepted publicly through the government all over the place that misrepresent us and show us in a light to be dangerous, evil people. It needs to stop. It needs to stop. Well, Sister Despair, maybe like if we push this fucking hard enough and people take it seriously, we might actually begin to see something like that. And the only way that we're going to stop these things from happening is if we finally put our foot down and say, I'm sorry, but what you just said about us is completely inaccurate and misinformed. You are putting pieces together from shit that you don't even know what it is that you're looking at. Because when this news organization did this report that Mystic apparently watched again, there wasn't a single point where they actually interviewed somebody that is on the left-hand path.
It was full fear-mongering, like unabashed. No, just it was totally false. It was amazing in a bad way.
And I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to wait for somebody else to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to sit here and wait for somebody else 5, 6, 10 years from now to finally stand up and say something. We have the Satanic Temple. The Satanic Temple is doing wonderful and amazing things for just human rights in general. But we need something more specific to protect us. Because no disrespect to anyone here that is a member of the Satanic Temple. I am also a member of the Satanic Temple, but to be completely honest, the Satanic Temple is using Satan as a leverage point to make political change. But not in the point of benefiting Satanism or any other left-hand path religion or faith, but rather using Satan as the leverage point to make other changes, real world changes happen, which is amazing, but that does nothing for us. So that is essentially what this is about. This isn't about using our faith to leverage changes in the law. This is about creating something completely new. This is about creating an idea and a concept that truly protects us and our beliefs, not using our beliefs to protect other aspects of our lives. Because there is a very definitive difference between those 2 points. Yeah, ignorance will spread fear and lies. And only truth will combat that, exactly, which is why education is extremely important in this. But I'm not going to wait for somebody else to do this. No, I think, Brett, you and I should definitely have a conversation. Hit me up in Discord. You can join the Discord community or the Gilded community. I think we're a little bit more active in Discord. And we should definitely have a conversation. I think we could definitely work together. I'm a graphic designer. You're a web dev. There's definitely something that we can definitely put together. But this is extremely important. We need to not only educate the people on the outside, but we need to educate the people inside the community as well. And when I say educate them inside, educate them in such a way to understand that, hey, I'm not against you. Don't be against me. Let's work together. Let's be a unit. Let's make things work. Yeah? Let's not cannibalize ourselves. And I think we can do it. I think the community is at a point where I do believe that we can do it. What are you doing there, Mystic?
You're going to judge me.
Why?
Researching how to start a wiki.
You're researching how to start a wiki?
Didn't find much.
I mean, it's pretty easy. I think it's pretty easy. Especially even if you just go to Wikipedia, you can just set up a Wikipedia page. It's the same idea.
Doesn't look that easy, but maybe it's because I'm old.
Well, apparently we got Brett, and he is a web developer, so...
Develop that web, sir.
Definitely going to have conversation. So, yeah, so that is the rough opening part of what it is that we are doing. These are the steps that are being taken. We are in our infancy, yes, at this junction, for this junction of things. The left-hand path is very old, but this aspect of it, finally setting up something that is going to protect us, that is going to represent us, that is going to go after these news organizations and these public organizations that deem us a threat, that damn us, that misrepresent us, to finally actually have something that's going to be a force to be reckoned with. That every false report, every person that comes out and wants to label us in a generalized form to say this entire group of people are evil and bad, we're finally going to be able to fucking stand up and say, hey, fuck you. We're not going to just sit here and whine about it in our basements or at our altars or in front of our computers and say, well, fuck, here goes another report. Well, here goes another person saying this shit. We're going to actually have a wall that they're going to have to get through. And if I have anything to say about it, they're not going to get through it. too cold. Sorry, it's too cold. I love the woods and the mountains. It's too cold.
I will be staying in Florida.
So
Not the most open community, but it's warm.
there you go. Well, I mean, Florida, you know. Luciferian's guy who switched to Christianity and went to a Christian church, and in the article it said that he turned to darkness. Well, I mean, I've watched reports back from the 80s about, so when the Christians, when the evangelicals were, I'll give you an example. When the evangelicals were up in arms, and they still are, about women's rights and abortion, they actually had a 2-hour special, and you can find this entire special on YouTube, and that's where I watched it, where there's this guy that was part of a satanic cult in his small little no-name fucking town, okay, that actually had said and pushed forward the idea or concept that Satanists use abortion for child sacrifice for part of their rituals, so that they would get people pregnant and then basically, okay, I don't know who's echoing through your microphone there, man, but I hear somebody talking. It's throwing me off. Fucking Christ. And basically turned around and said that satanic cults were using abortions, getting women pregnant, and using abortions, late-term abortions, for child sacrifices for their rituals as a legal way of committing child sacrifice, which threw the entire community up in arms, the Christian Catholic community up in arms, and unified them against us. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I personally don't know a single person on this planet that has ever used the necessity of needing an abortion as an excuse to commit a child sacrifice to Satan or any other devil, demon, or god. But it is content from the 80s that still affects us today.
Yep.
Just like the Satanic Panic, just like the videos that the police departments created and set up on how to identify if you have a satanic cult operating in your area, which is publicly available on the internet, which people to this day use against us. There is so much information out there. My lovely demons, I love you all. You are my demons, all of you. But there's so much out there against us, and not enough out there that is actually explaining what it is that we do and who it is that we are as a community. And we need to flip the script. Because you can sit there and you can tell me, Malice, it's been there since the 80s. You get a couple of whack jobs and nothing happens. Yeah. But then you add all of that on to people like John Ramirez or other people that I've reacted to on this channel that will sit there and tell you not just left-hand path, but every single witch in existence is evil. And then you get the ones that push it a little bit further, just like John Ramirez, that will sit there and tell you prayer is no longer an option. We must go to physical war with these people. Literally creating a call to action to commit physical violence against us and our community. When you compound everything together, it's scary shit, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not decent controller. If you want to practice in secret, then I respect that. But I refuse to. I refuse to hide who it is that I am or a part of who I am.
Thank you.
Because of these idiots. And if that means me being the fucking poster child for this shit gets me shot, then so be it. Because then they just created a martyr. And I'm well aware of that. I'm well aware of how the politics of that works. So, I will not be silent. I will not practice in secret. I will not hide who I am. And I will not let these pieces of shit run through the ground the very thing that saved my life. I won't let it happen. No, I got you. My co-host almost lost his job, and he's not even fucking left-hand path. It was a whole fucking ordeal. But that's exactly the attitude that needs to change. You shouldn't be afraid of losing your job for being left-hand path. That should not be a fear in your mind. And I promise you, and anybody that knows me, I never make a promise that I can't keep. I promise you that one day that will change. One day you will no longer have to live in fear of losing your job because of your religious beliefs, because of your spiritual beliefs.
They'll find something else to do it with.
They will, but it won't be the left-hand path or
part.
Satanism.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. I mean, that's always going to be the thing. That it's again, human condition. You know, it goes back to the whole idea of, you know, do completely understand people that want to do. Now, and I say practice in private. I practice a lot in private, but not because I want it to be private, just because I want that practice to be private for me or for who's in my small group. But I am also not going to hide. I wear my necklace that has my pagan symbol on it every day to work, and if it slips out of my shirt and shows, I'm not afraid of it. Just like somebody else has their cross, and I don't say anything about that. And at this point in my brain, it's like, dare you to say something. Now, I am extremely lucky time-wise, considering that the organization I work for is moving in such a positive manner when it comes to that kind of diversity. But if it would have been 5 years ago, 7 years ago, I might have lost my job.
Yeah, and that's sad. Because all the work and time and effort that you've put into it to reach the point that you're at, and all of that to be fucking torn down in one fell swoop just because you believe something different than somebody else because they want to have a ridiculously ignorant idea of what it is that you believe. Because if anybody on this podcast is the closest to the fucking right-hand path and light work, it's goddamn Mystic. Now, I'm not saying that that's what he is or that's what he does, but I'm saying in comparison.
Yeah, there's nothing about me that people would latch onto to make a mislabeling to lead down that path, unless they want something, or they want to see me fail at something, which is what that instance became. It was somebody that wanted me to fail. It is what it is.
No, Nick, bravo. You know, I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. I'm sorry that you had to deal with that, and I'm hoping that eventually, you know, those situations, you know, are, you know, going to, you know, cease and desist once we actually kind of start to kind of push a little bit more. Once we get, the group together and the people in it that we need.
Get that wiki started.
Right. Let's see. Brett, I don't display my LHP workings or even my spirituality in public. Not really at all. I like to blend in within the meat world, but I don't mind discussing it with the correct people. No, exactly. I mean, there's always going to be people that are going to be that are going to disagree. But the thing is the thing that we always have to live in fear of is when you are talking to one of those correct people, and if one of the incorrect people happen to overhear you having that conversation, and they just happen to know where it is that you work, or where it is that your kids go to school, or anything of that nature, and they decide to
friend on Facebook.
Exactly. Decide to butt their noses in where it doesn't fucking belong. And all of a sudden, because you had a conversation with the correct person while the incorrect person was floating around in the vicinity and happened to overhear you, now you have to be afraid about losing everything that you've built up around you in your life simply because you believe in something different that other people believe or think is evil. That needs to stop. I will not allow it. And as such in this conversation, there is a gentleman that has spent many a day in our chat, Mark 5, which is a Eastern Christian, which I didn't realize there was much of a difference, but apparently there is, and wants to have a conversation. And as such as this podcast is, it is not an echo chamber by no means. I am willing to let him have his word and see what it is that he says. I request that everyone in the chat be respectful. Express your ideas. Express your opinions openly and freely. Do not fear. You are in a safe place. Just do it respectfully. And trust me, if anyone in this chat knows me over the time that you have seen this podcast, you also know that I have no fear of expressing my opinions or my ideas, and I have no fear of repercussions because of them. So we're going to pull in Mark 5 to have a conversation with us, and hopefully it goes well. So we're going to pop to the intro screen here for a second, and we'll be right back with Mark 5. All right, and we're back. So we do have Mark 5 with us. He is joining us via audio. He does not have video. So we are going to kind of get this conversation going, and I think that with everything that we've been talking about tonight, I think that this is going to be probably one of the most important conversations that we've actually had on this podcast, because it is a polarizing view. So Mark 5 is a former occultist turned Christian, Eastern Christian, and though he says that he's not trying to convert me, I do think that he is, but that's just me. That's just me. Because I think that, like, I told you I'm honest with my opinions. I think that most Christians, because of the basis of Christianity and the idea of needing to save souls, because it's a constant war between God and the devil, and God wants more souls, that it is the Christian looks at it as their responsibility to save us from ourselves. So it is going to be an interesting conversation. So, Mark, how about you introduce yourself and let everybody know what it is that you're about, man?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on Malice and Mystic. It's such an honor to be invited into your space. I don't take it lightly. And like I said, happy Saturday. I hope you've been having a good time so far. Yeah, I just really, my intention is to, first of all, communicate to you that that not all Christians dislike you or think of you as evil people or against you. Certainly, I don't think that way myself. And most of the Christians that I've met, at least in my community, pretty open-minded. You know, we've had discussions about magic and, you know, sci-fi movies and anime and, you know, cyberpunk books, and there's quite a few interesting people that I've met in the Eastern Church, at least. I didn't grow up in a situation that was like a negative experience with Christianity. Like I told you in a previous conversation, my parents were not overly religious. I wasn't forced to go to church. I was exposed to the church, and I found it interesting. And I essentially always had this idea or this feeling that there was something beyond the physical world. And that's ultimately what led me to the occult. I told you I had a lot of strange visionary experiences when I was younger. And then I started working with energy and getting involved in Golden Dawn style practices, working with middle pillar exercise and things like that, getting energy moving around my body. I began to realize that this stuff was real, you know, so that led me into my whole occult experience, which was pretty varied, and spent a good amount of time studying the tarot as well, and ended up getting involved in the left-hand path and with an order as well. And then my journey to Christianity is something that I already described to you, so I won't get into that, but that's where I'm at now. And I've been a Christian for about 7 or 8 years now. And there's a richness that I've discovered that I basically had no idea was there until I dived into it. So that's kind of what I'm trying to defend on my end. But at the same time, really, I'm just so thrilled that you're willing to have a discussion. I mean, the things that you've been talking about this evening so far is about maintaining communications with people within your group. And I think that that's wonderful. And if you would, you know, if I don't put you off too much, then hopefully you'll continue a conversation with me as well. And I can show you just a different side of Christianity that you might not be aware of.
Well,
And
I think, you know, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think I'm very, I think both mystic and myself. are very open to having discussions with people of differing views. I mean, it's the only way that you learn, right? I mean, you're not going to learn inside of an echo chamber. And I mean, I think that's one of the things that I try to kind of like preach inside of, our community, is that it's extremely important to learn from each other instead of shutting each other down because of a difference in practices. The reason you're on this show is because you've always been respectful, and you've always kind of been, non-combative, with the ideas that you present. And so that is why I feel comfortable having you on. Because I feel that this is not going to disintegrate into a screaming match about, the principles of what we believe, right? I'm not here to convert you, and I do hope that you're not here to convert me. Now, as far as your story about going from the occult to Christianity, I would like to ask you, for, the people listening, would you be willing to get into that story for the listeners, so they are aware of your journey of kind of moving from the occult to Christianity, kind of like how that happened?
Well, sure. Yeah, like I mentioned before, when I got out of the Navy, I was interested in getting involved in Buddhism, because I had read some Crowley, and I think it was his 8 lectures on yoga. He talked about, different types of Buddhist meditation. And that's what turned me on to wanting to learn more about that. And I went to a Buddhist temple. I ended up befriending a Chinese nun there. We had a lot of tea and a lot of conversations, and she taught me a breathing meditation practice called Anapanasati. And that kind of was the ticket that I needed to gain some sort of mental self-control and some ability to slow down my mind and look inside of myself and kind of see what was going on. Shortly after that, I picked up Tarot studies because of some of the Rosicrucian teachings that I was still involved in, even when I was doing Buddhism. And basically, I knew that that spirit exists, and that there's something beyond us that is communicating with us and guiding us. I hadn't quite necessarily identified that as God yet. Then when I got into the left-hand path, I kind of felt like this is very interesting. This is new. I'm working on myself. There's a lot of internal focus in the left-hand path. And by the way, I don't think that what you guys are doing is bad, and I'm not trying to convert you. As a matter of fact, I think you're exactly where you need to be right now in your life. And I appreciate you for who you are, both of you. So, but I felt a barrenness in the left-hand path. I felt like I was missing something. And essentially that something was God, was the presence of spirit outside of myself. And through a long series of happenstance and meetings with random people at coffee shops, getting involved in discussions with people, I started exploring churches again. And I kind of went the rounds, went to many different types of churches, and checked out the Episcopalian Church, which was the church that I grew up in, and then Catholic as well, and then ultimately went to an Eastern church, and something stuck with me there. It was extremely profound. So I went back, and that feeling continued to grow, and eventually, I started entertaining the idea. So.
Okay. So I think, excuse me, squeaker voice there for a second. I think for me personally, so So, by the way, chat, anybody in the chat, if you have a question, please type the question out. I'm going to write it down, and towards the end of the conversation, I will go through and ask Mark all of the questions that you guys have for him. Okay, so feel free to ask your questions. Don't be shy. So I think I'm going to jump into, because I have this very exclusive opportunity to talk to a Christian that doesn't want to bite my fucking head off. I'm going to jump into Scripture because I'm very well versed. Yeah. I know my Bible. No, it's not my Bible, but I know the Bible. And so first and foremost, let's kind of start with kind of like the basic structure here. So we have the Old Testament and the New Testament, yeah? So the Old Testament and the New Testament to some degree overlap, but at the same time are two different stories, but they're the same. So, for example, in the Old Testament, you have Joseph. In the New Testament, you have Jesus. In the Old Testament, God is fire and brimstone and wrath. And in the New Testament, God is love and forgiveness and, you know, opportunity, let's say. Which God do you worship? Is it the Old Testament? Is it the New Testament? Is it a combination of the both? And how do you explain the fact that there are two stories that are essentially the exact same at their beginning, just with two different characters?
So yeah, we don't really see that there's a distinction between the Old and the New Testament. Obviously, they're different and they have different elements to them. But I guess you could say the lens that the Orthodox tradition views the Scripture from, which, by the way, we don't count the Scripture as the most important source of doctrine in the Eastern Church. It's not like Protestantism where it's sola scriptura, you know, everything is about the book. But we see everything as one whole. It's the same God. The same God that revealed himself to Moses is the same God that manifested on the earth as Christ. So basically, we see everything through the lens of Christ.
Wait, so Jesus, so for you, Jesus isn't the Son of God, but God in physical manifestation.
No, we believe in the Trinity. You know, we believe in three persons, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, just like other Christians do. But we see everything, the entire Scripture, as interpreted through the lens of Christ. So from the first word of the Bible all the way through to the end of the collection of books of Scriptures, it's all talking about Christ. But really, when you look at Scripture, there's kind of a way of interpreting it that's completely foreign to the modern Western world, and that is you have a symbol, or you have a spiritual reality, which is the noetic or intellectual level is sometimes how it's divided, and then you have a material reality, the material realm, which is creation. Where the two meet, there is a symbol that occurs, and basically that's the spiritual meaning of Scripture. And when we're looking at something through a spiritual lens, we're always asking the question, what does this mean? When we're looking at something through a material lens, we're asking, what does it comprise? You know, what is it made of? So really, when you look at Scripture, you always have to ask yourself, what does it mean? What's the teaching behind it?
Okay. So, all right. So, for example, Exodus 22:18. Thou shalt not permit a witch to live, which is directly against myself and Mystic and most of the people that are in this chat. Depending on the translation, it's thou shalt not permit a witch to live. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. and there are some loose translations that go directly into thou shalt kill a witch. So when we have a book and a religion that within the 10 Commandments, the tenets of your belief system that states thou shalt not kill, which is everyone has an understanding of, that you will not take another human life, that it's not your place to end human life. But within that same book, there is a scripture that very blatantly says that, oh, but by the way, you can kill these people. I'm curious, how would you... I do hope that you didn't expect to come on here and not have the tough questions. Like, I do hope that you didn't expect that.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good.
So, how do you explain that?
Well, first of all, I'm not a biblical scholar, right? So whatever I say, I'm not representing the church. I'm just giving you my own ideas. But I happen to know the verse you're talking about, and I know that there is some contention among scholars, some disagreement among scholars as to what that Hebrew word actually means.
Mm-hmm.
One of the translations mentions that it's a poisoner. So there's some speculation that maybe it was someone within the Levitical community. So these are laws that are being made by the Israelites themselves for themselves, and there's some thought that there was people in their community who were basically shamming people, charlatans, and poisoning people as well. So it's not like when we hear that word witch today, we think of Wiccans or the occult community or something like that. That's definitely not what it means.
Okay. Then the next one that I want to, I'm going to hit you with scripture because it's the basis of everything. Okay, so Psalms 137:9. Happy is the one who seizes thy infants and dashes them against the stones.
Psalms 137.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard that before, but I don't know exactly what it means. Obviously the Psalms are very poetic. They're written in poetic format, right? So they're not talking about literal things generally in the Psalms. They're talking, it's a poem.
Okay.
So what could children be, smashing against rocks? I don't know. It's a symbolic description of something. It's a teaching. But I don't know the answer to that. I'll look into it.
Okay. I mean that's fair. That's fair. I mean I don't expect you to kind of like know them because I know that like getting into the scripture, because a lot of the times like these particular lines are kind of skipped over. So I don't. Let's see here. There's another one. That I can't remember the exact scripture, but essentially it talks about that if your children are disrespectful to you and they are drunkards, that you will take them to the basically the town square and stone them to death publicly. It is like the literal aspect of it.
Yeah, they I mean, obviously they had some pretty harsh laws back then. But we wouldn't, impose those laws in our modern standards for sure. And that's not obviously what Christ is telling people to do is not kill their children.
Well, I would hope not.
So yeah, I think those were very harsh laws for a very harsh time. Is my understanding of it.
Yeah, I mean, so let's see here. So let's see. It was Deuteronomy 5:16a. Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy.
Mm-hmm. So basically, to disrespect your parents is to disrespect God, and by disrespecting God, you should be put to death.
Yeah, these are all kind of from that same section of laws to the community at that time. When I read this, I have the same sense of revulsion as you do, Malice. I don't want to
It's
live in a
because
community
the
where
reason I bring these up, and I don't mean to cut you off, but the reason I bring these up is because I respect what it is that like you're saying. Like, I mean, I understand like the idea of like that you're not too familiar with these particular aspects of Scripture, but these are also the things that some people look at as justification for very criminal action. And because it is their God through the book of their God that has permitted these things. And so, for example, let's go with something like a more modern kind of issue that the religious Christian right has had to deal with when it comes to people of a more progressive nature. Trans and LGBT issues, in the sense of, let's say, just existing. I know that most people of the Old Testament or most church goers would look at my best friend here, and he is my best friend, Mystic, as an abomination of nature because he's gay. What is your take on that?
Well, I don't know about you, but no, I'm just kidding. Obviously, you do know, but gay people are extremely sensitive people. They're generally people that I like to be around. So we have gay people in our church. They're not ostracized in any way. I mean, I really don't know how to answer that except that gay people are people, and there's no contention there whatsoever. Now they can't get married in the church. That is where the church draws the line. But they can get married, in a secular fashion if they want. But
Mystic.
I love gays. So,
I mean, Mystic, throw your 2 cents in, man. I can't speak for you.
I think Mystic is muted.
Yeah.
I am. Sorry, the dogs were barking earlier and I muted, and I've been saying shit and I forgot to unmute. Oh, that's hilarious. I was wondering why I was getting ignored more than usual. So my 2 cents, I mean, there isn't really a whole lot to say. I have a very different, and I'm probably would piss some people off with saying this too. I have a very different perspective on it. I only personally judge Christianity in the form of the Christianity that I was exposed to that judged me. I don't judge any other Christianity for that except what you see here do. But one thing that you can kind of that does kind of stick out to me is as a group in general, Christian church does have a lot of problem with gay people, right? And we know that, we've seen it, but part of me has always felt that is less about the religion and more about using the religion to support somebody's personal beliefs of wanting to not like something. So I don't necessarily, reason being, I have a lot of Christian people that I know that do not have a problem with me at all. I also feel like if a church, Christian church, any kind of church, has decided that I am not allowed to get married through their religion, well, I don't really care because that's a religious union. That's the definition, however they want to do it. I don't care because to me, uh, marriage shouldn't be about anything religious, or it should be everything about religious, not both. So from that perspective, like that specific topic, it doesn't hurt my feelings. Like it causes a lot of issue for other people because it's a whole kind of like separate but equal thing. Um, and I think that's it's sad, and it does make me think a little bit about, if I am going to be with a group and that group does not believe that I have the ability to uh uh what's the word, uh commune or uh display in front of the God that we believe in that my love is right and it is real, then I would have a hard time believing that those individuals are truly actually okay with gay people. And that's and part of that is experience, because I can't say, "Oh, we accept you, we tolerate you," which I hate the word tolerate, but we accept you, we're not ostracizing you, yet you can't do what everybody else can do with the same kind of love. And that's always going to be a sticking point for me with any religion. If the religion has any kind of exception or requirement or something placed on an individual for doing what is true and right to them when it is causing no harm, and when it is only doing something to enhance their life, which my marriage has, then I tend to think that there's a missing piece in there. That would be a missing piece. It'd be a, what's the word? A little bit of cognitive dissonance, if you will, to say that I would be accepted as an individual in a church that would not allow me to do the same things that all members are allowed to do.
Yeah, I hear you, Mystic. And those conversations are actually being had in the Eastern Church right now.
And
Um,
it's in a lot of churches too. I don't know any different. I truly would love to learn more, just hear more. I'm listening to it. It's really interesting to me to hear more about like what actually is the belief. I'm not a biblical scholar either. I can't tell you. I know in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and then he rested on day 7. That's about my extent of the Bible knowledge or remembering, even though I have read it. But um, and I like that. I like that there's a lot of thought put into that, and I think that's very respectful to do it. And I get it, and I have no harm, no foul for it. But it's a hard thing to think that you wouldn't be allowed to do certain things within reason. Whoever gets to decide what that reason is.
I mean, really, the Christian way is about metamorphosis. It's about diving into yourself and uh, seeking some level of self knowledge and change within yourself. So, as a Christian, I should be focusing on myself, not what other people are doing. I don't care if other people are, in gay relationships or anything like that, or if they're Satanist or left hand path practitioners. That's not something that I should be focused on. I need to focus on myself. And that's really the method of looking inward and the method of acquiring self knowledge is something that I feel that I can share, with the occult community as a common interest. So if you're interested in diving in yourself and removing, kind of battling your ego and getting rid of your fears and insecurities and all of those things, that's what it's about.
Yeah, I like learning and listening to, for example, the left hand path. I've been talking with Malice about left hand path, going probably close to 2 years now, and I still have zero desire to be on a path similar to what Malice is doing, or probably most of his community for that matter, because the majority of the community is left hand path, and I'm not, and never have been, in the sense of self identifying with that and what it is. And I know what you described of your transition towards from left hand path, or that kind of occultism to the Christianity that you've discovered is the missing link. That is the exact reason why I went into being pagan. Was for me, it was the missing link in my brain. What I feel or hear as God, and I think this, and I truly believe this, and it is very egotistical in some manners, that Malice is Baphomet, somebody else is Lilith, my Carnunos, and your God are all the same exact source, and none of us are ever going to know exactly what that is because we're not supposed to. We're not smart enough for that. And whatever it is, we have to find our path to it because that is, in the end, even in Left Hand Path, the end result is always to improve yourself and to become closer to God. No matter what religion you look at, that's usually what you can surmise the goal to be, and it's just being done in different ways. uh and I think part of the difficulty for me that I deal with still, but I think I'm much better than I used to be, is because of my personal experience with the worst kind of Baptist you can come up in, being gay, and has a lot to do with why I left Christianity. Not everything, but a lot. And that was, a very difficult personal event and process through my whole life to get to that place where I now am comfortable with my spirituality. When I say, if I, Malice, I think I've said this before, like I don't see Caradwin up in the sky with a cauldron. I see the representation of the mother, God, particle, goddess, boson, whatever you want to call it. That's what I see and feel when I do certain things or when I reach out to
Yeah.
or work with. And I feel like a lot of that is very similar across all the lines. And it almost sounds like what you're explaining is your path revealed to you in a way that is much more similar to the other paths than the Christianity that a lot of us have known and felt because of that ostracization, if that's even a word. If it's not, I made it up. It's great. It's going in the dictionary. Um, but what, like, things that I'm like really interested in hearing is like what do you think is different from, like a, I don't know, like a, I don't want to say standard. That's terrible. Um, like, I mean, is it Protestant? No, it's not Protestant. Presbyterian is one of the denominations that I think is very open and accepting. Um, I could be wrong because I don't pay as much attention as I used to that kind of stuff when I was, going through those things. But what is different about what you have got to in your own growth in spirituality and with God that makes it different, do you think, than what we're describing in our experiences, if that makes any sense?
Well, I kind of, yeah, I completely gather the gist of what you're saying, Mystic. So the Christianity that we have here in the West can often be so pale and vapid, just surface level. And you go into a church and it just seems dead inside, and the people there are, they're not, they don't seem creative types. They don't seem like interesting individuals that you would want to hang out with. So, you know, there is mostly that is what people encounter in the West. And what I encountered when I discovered the Eastern Church is something kind of a 180 degrees from that. There's this really rich tradition that started with the Desert Fathers, early Christian monastics, who shortly after the time of the apostles, they kind of went out to the desert to isolate themselves and look within and reconnect with the things that they had been taught. Um, and they found God, and they discovered these really in-depth techniques for going within, and mapped out an internal psychology that rivals some of the Buddhist literature out there. But there, for example, there is a concept in Eastern Christianity called theosis, or divinization, where they say that man, as he goes through this process of internal purification, becomes like God, becomes one with God. And this is something that might even be called heresy in Protestant churches, that man can become God. Saint Athanasius said God became man so that man might become God. So the reaching down of God into human flesh, the divinization of flesh itself, of changed creation to a certain degree and allowed man direct access to the divine, is kind of what's happening on a cosmic level there. God became man so that man might become God. So we connect with God through his human level, because before that, God is just abstract. He's a notion out there. He's the infinite. He's the unknowable. But when God takes on human form, we can see him, and we see him as a person. We see him as someone that personally cares about us. That intimate communion transforms us, and we are lifted up and participate in what the Eastern Church calls the uncreated energies of God. So they make a distinction between essence and energies. God, in his essence, is unknowable, always unattainable. It's that mystery that's always on the edge of your consciousness. And then there is God that is knowable, and we know him through his energies. We participate in his energies. Um, and this is like a literal thing. You know, it flows through our bodies. The chi and the chakras and all that stuff. It's real, and this is what they're talking about. They're talking about participating in the energies of God through awakening these things in your body.
So my concern here, and it's not with you, Mark. My concern is not with you, but those in your camp. So with people like, so for example, John Ramirez, which understandably is Western Christianity, not Eastern, from what you're explaining. But with people like John Ramirez has openly declared, like, not just spiritual war, but physical war against people like myself and Mystic in the name of God, that causing physical harm to people like myself or Mystic, like ending us essentially, is God's work. And he has hundreds of thousands of followers that believe in his message. To people like that, where do you stand? Can you denounce somebody like that? Like, are you open to say that I do not agree with this person's perspectives and what they're preaching? Or is it a Donald Trump against racists? I'm not going to denounce the racists, but I'm going to denounce the racists, but in a very roundabout way that I'm not going to.
No, I completely denounce that guy. I know who you're talking about as well, Malice. I've seen just like a few clips of him. That guy is ridiculous to me. I mean, why would I take him seriously? To me, that is what I would call low-hanging fruit. You know, it's just slim pickings.
He has a very similar story to yours. He is apparently former occultist, Satanist, major organizations apparently, and converted. So explain to the audience, explain to people what is different between yourself and him.
Well, I don't know the guy, but just from what I've briefly seen of him, he doesn't seem like someone I would enjoy hanging out with. I can tell you that. I don't know. I mean, just what he's saying, that he saw Satan and hell and all this stuff, it just seems like he's making it up to me. He doesn't seem genuine. I have a pretty good ability to read people. You know, I was in the military. I grew up in a pretty rough part of town. I've been involved in martial arts for most of my life. I'm always assessing people, and I can tell by their body language. And when I look at him, I see someone that I don't trust. It's like if I was to equate all Satanists with Richard Ramirez, obviously you would take offense to that. And it's the same with John Ramirez. To me, I don't see him as a brother.
So you think you're on like kind of like different points of view, different kind of levels and things like that?
Yeah, he just doesn't seem genuine to me. The things that he's saying are just outrageous. And anytime someone says outrageous things like that, you just have to raise a question mark.
Mm-hmm. I've only reacted to one of his pieces of content, but I mean, there's a lot of things I'm throwing at you that you might not have answers for, due to the fact that, well, generally speaking, Christians don't want to talk to us.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm thrilled that you would want to, and I hope we can have further conversations, because I really do like what you're doing. I like your show, and you guys are really nice to talk to. So thanks again.
Man, I've always said that you got balls, man. At the very least, you've got balls, because you are a Christian, regardless of what fucking hemisphere you hail from. Like, you are a Christian in a chat full of Satanists, left-hand path believers, pagans, and you throw your ideas out there, and your thoughts, and consequences be damned. So there's a part of me that has to respect that. I'm not going to lie. There's a part of me that respects that, like, wholeheartedly. Because you are in a chat, in a podcast, in a show where, if we're going to talk about it numerically and through the idea of war, you are unbelievably outnumbered.
Yeah. Well, when Mystic goes and sets up his altars in his house and dedicates a sacred space, to me, I see that as what I would identify, what I would call a Christian behavior. And just because I call it Christian, it doesn't mean I'm trying to change your mind, just so you know. It's just, that's the way I see it. Because he's honoring the sacred, he's hallowing a space. To me, one of the primary realizations that comes from Christianity is that we're living in a sacred space. The ground that we walk on is holy. Everything, every human being, every aspect of creation is holy. So to set up altars and hallow a space and make it sacred, to me, is I'm on the same level as that.
I love that. That's a very, very good way to put it.
So here's somebody just mentioned something in chat. I'm not going to mention their name. Obviously, you can see their name if you check the chat, but I'm not going to mention it just out of respect. But there's a comment that was made that I wholeheartedly agree with, and I'm curious what your response is. Christianity has caused more pain, suffering, and oppression than any religious belief in world history. I wholeheartedly agree with that. It may not be you specifically, but if there is anything from Christianity that I've learned, is the sins of the father. The child is liable to the sins of the father, meaning that though you may not have been the perpetrator of the suffering, oppression, and pain caused by Christianity throughout history, by your own doctrine, you are to be held responsible for such. So I'm curious how you view that. Look, I told you, man. I'm not trying to be combative, but like I said earlier, I hope you didn't expect this to be an easy conversation.
No, it's fine. So I kind of would want maybe it would be nice to have more clarification in the sense of what type of atrocities, but I do know obviously the Roman Empire becoming the Catholic Church, and then expansionism, um, imperialism, all that stuff. There were atrocities done in the name of the church. There's no doubt about it. Now, as far as the when I look at the history of the Eastern Church, I don't really see that. Um, but basically, my understanding of I think we already talked before about how the Christians didn't really convert the pagans in the initial stages with violence. A lot of, most of the pagans that converted willingly throughout the Christian history of conversion. And the reason is because monks would go out, like, for example, in Ireland, there was monasteries set up. The monk would start a center of learning, a library. People would come, pagan teachers would come, philosophers, and they would converse. And ultimately, pagans were converted through just conversations. And people.
Okay, again, I don't mean to cut you off, but okay. One of the reasons, and I know you've been in the chat when I said this. I know you've heard me say this before, and I'm going to say it again. One of the reasons that I don't celebrate St. Patrick's Day, for as much as I love alcohol and getting drunk, one of the reasons I don't celebrate St. Patrick's Day is the reason St. Patrick is a fucking saint is because he murdered entire villages of women, children, the elderly, men, obviously, and burned any book that had any written history at all dealing with paganism, period. It's the reason why the church called him a saint. He was part of those communities, and he went into those communities to people that trusted him and murdered them because they refused to convert. So to sit there and say, I don't mean to be combative, I really don't, but to sit there and say that people were converted by conversation, Mark, I'm sorry, maybe in Eastern Christianity, but in general, that's bullshit. The Crusades are a fucking thing. There's a reason why the Crusades are famous. Because hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people died in the name of God.
Yeah, I don't know about St. Patrick all that much, to be honest, Malice. And then as for the Crusades, I know that the original Crusade was a response to an invasion from the Turks, I believe, or maybe, I'm sorry, it was the Ottomans. Yeah, the Ottomans invaded Jerusalem, and then the Christians under the Roman Empire at that time, under Rome, responded to that initial attack. So the initial crusade, at least, was a response to a previous attack. I haven't looked at the history of the other, because I know that there was a total of 4 crusades, but there's some common misconceptions about the crusades as well. In terms of history,
regardless of how they started, though, we know where they ended, right? I mean, we can understand. So one of the points of contention that I have when I speak to people, again, I'm going to refer to them as people in your camp that are Christian, is that there is this inevitable reaction to conversations like this to speak only about very specific aspects of history. which is, so for example, what you just did with how something started. And it's okay. I am very well aware and understand that is a reasonable response to an invasion. But what about the rest of it? Right? It's like and I don't want to push it this far, but it is quite literally like saying, well, Adolf Hitler became the leader of Germany because Germany was butthurt because they lost World War I. Right? And leaving out the entire part about the Holocaust.
Well, just so you know, I don't condone the Crusades, I don't condone any atrocities, and it's pretty obvious that's, when you read scripture or you go learn from the teachings of the church, that's not what they're teaching. They're not teaching you to go out and hate people and murder people. They're teaching you to forgive and love your enemies, which is something that is unique to Christianity. It's, people usually love their own kind, but to love your enemy is a bit of a stretch. And that's something that I see amongst fellow Christians. I don't see them wanting to go out and murder. Now, there have been times in history, plenty of times, where the church and the state are married together, and the interests of the state override those of the church. And, it's a lot of bloodshed occurs, but the name of the church is associated with it because it's the church and state are married. Obviously, that's not right, but then again,
Mm-hmm.
is any war right? Why do people fight each other? Why are Christians being persecuted right now in China or other places of the world? If you look at the religious groups who have been persecuted the most throughout history, it's actually been Christians in various time periods, and even now in the modern world.
I mean, the major demographic that's being persecuted in China is actually Muslims. It's not so much Christians. I mean, there are a few, but generally speaking, the persecuted religious group currently that exists inside of China is people of Islam. They're the ones that are being essentially held in internment camps,
the
prison
Berbers,
cells,
right?
In China, for simply being Muslim. And I don't think anyone of any religious group should be, held in such a way for any reason whatsoever. I don't give a shit how fearful you are of that religious group. Because your spiritual journey is one that is very personal to you, and I don't think that anyone should be persecuted for it. And again, I'd like to reiterate the point, and I'm trying to be respectful here, but again, I'll reiterate the point. One, I don't get very many opportunities such as this to be able to speak to somebody that is on such a polarized side of the aisle to myself. And there are many difficult questions that need to be asked. And sadly, my friend, they're being fallen on top of you. So,
well, I like how you inject heat into a conversation. It spices it up. So no worries there.
So the other aspect of this that I know that you are very well aware that I was going to inevitably ask this question because I have mentioned it many other times. Specifically with the church in modern era, and I'm going to bring up the largest number that has been recorded thus far recently. 300,000 children. Allow me to repeat this now. I want you to understand the gravity of this before you say anything. So please understand the gravity. As a victim of sexual abuse and assault myself as a child, I want you to understand the gravity of this. 300,000 children, more than 250,000 children, from one place, in one city, in one country, over the course of 50 years, by 3,000 clergy members. These children were deaf and unable to speak, some of them blind. It was an organization in France set up by the church to help children that were in a situation where they were unable to take care of themselves. And 3,000 clergy members over the course of 50 years abused 300,000 children. And the head of this organization that was set up and defended by various popes over the course of those 50 years was caught on camera admitting and laughing about the things that he and people before him did to these children on his deathbed. And this is something that it isn't a sole occurrence. Obviously, we're talking about 50 years here, not to mention all the other occurrences that have happened all over the world, and which the church just kind of relocates people and says, "Oh well, you know, they can't like deport you from here, so we're going to send you over here." What? How do you defend that?
Are you talking about, I don't know exactly what you're referring to. You talking about something that happened in the Catholic Church?
Yes, it was the Catholic Church.
Okay. I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Obviously, it pains me to hear such things. It's terrible. I can't really identify with someone fully who has been hurt by someone in a position of power, because I was never sexually molested or anything like that. So I had other troubles growing up, but that wasn't one of them. But so I can't fully put myself in the place of someone like that. But as a human, obviously I can empathize with them. So yeah, of course that's horrible. I don't know how else you want me to respond except to say.
Well, because what I'm curious about. So here's the thing. So I understand that you're not Catholic. I understand that. And just like, I'm not Wiccan or I'm not, Buddhist or anything like that, but there's certain ideals that, I can align with, and, there are certain aspects of each of those things that, I can pull into myself. Christianity in general is an encompassing term that most people use and include the Catholic Church in, because though the Catholic Church is different from Christianity, like your King James version of the Holy Bible and things of that nature, which is generally where kind of like Christian. I understand you being of an Orthodox faith, much like the Russian Orthodox. You also have a separate scripture as well. The reason of me bringing this up is the acts of molestation and violation of children isn't exclusive to the Catholic Church. It is rampant through Christianity. And it is generally in positions where people have access to children. And
yeah, it's rampant in like Boy Scout leaders and youth.
True. Now,
all kinds of people.
I completely agree. And anybody that's in a position where they're supposed to be protecting children that takes advantage of children, I personally believe that they should have their fucking nuts cut off and then their fucking head. That's just my opinion. But the reason I bring it up is because you are lumped into that. I mean, not you specifically, but Christianity at large in general is lumped into that. And what, like, beyond obviously the aspect of being empathetic to the situation of the children that were violated, what about all of the parishes and churches that have, instead of allowing their priests or pastors to feel the weight of the law on them for their crimes, have been relocated to try to hush and quiet the things that happened?
Yeah, that's snake-like activity. It's it's bad stuff. None of that should be covered up. And really, if you want to know what the answer is, you just go to the teachings themselves. Christianity doesn't teach to molest or take advantage of anyone. So if they're doing that, then they're not following Christianity. As simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, as you probably already know, my one of my thoughts, which is just that there's bad people everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, when there's power structures set up, like the church, it does provide an opportunity for people to abuse their power and to, have that buddy system or good old boy system that they cover up each other's negative acts. That happens in politics.
It does.
I work with bureaucracies all the time in my job, and I see all kinds of crazy back dealing going on. And it's unfortunate, and it's always disheartening. People will always try to take advantage of positions of power, and
Agreed.
the church is not immune to that. So, but one of the things that we have within the church is an ability to understand what is our compass, what are we aiming at, and that is to treat all life with respect. And yeah, that's completely antithetical to Christianity to do that sort of thing.
Right, I understand. Jurian, just to answer your question, your comment rather, I'm not confusing religion with men that run the organization, because it is due to the fact of the religion that the organization exists, and that the people have the power to cover up the things that happen. There's two places that happens that I'm aware of. Generally speaking, there are two places that happens. It happens in religion and it happens in government. Those are the two places that happens, where there's enough power and money being thrown around where somebody can be moved, relocated, and just disappear and no longer be a problem or be a question. And it is directly related to the religion that happens. Now, maybe not Christianity specifically, and it is an aspect of it. It has happened significantly less than it has in Catholicism, but it's still there. Now, do I agree with you that it is evil people that are doing that? Yes. But the movement of the people is happening because of the optics of the religion, because they are trying to save the optics of the religion. They do not want the optics to have a negative light. And that is directly an aspect of the religion, regardless of who's in charge.
Yeah, it seems like this type of thing could even happen in your local homeowners organization or something like that. People...
It could, but the chances of that actually happening are slim to none, because there's probably not enough weight being thrown around to actually have that happen. Which is why, like, when you mention like the Boy Scouts and shit, you're 100% right. There have been numerous cases within the Boy Scouts and other organizations of that type where people have been arrested and charged with, child molestation and things like that. But here's the difference. They were arrested and charged. In the Catholic Church or in politics, or just the church or just religion in general and politics, they just kind of disappear. Nobody's ever actually charged, or very few people have ever actually been charged from the church. That's the difference. Because of the optics. It's not necessarily that the church really wants to protect the person, but they want to protect the church. And so they think that the overall goal is to protect the church, to hide the person is to protect the church, instead of owning up to the fact that they hired a pedophile.
Well, if I may be able to give you some consolation on that, Malice, please know that they're not going to get away with it. God will hold them accountable. That's one thing within Christianity itself that is one of the main teachings, that you can't escape your own actions. You will be held accountable. So that is something that I would hope, would take consolation in, that even though they get some leeway within their power structure, that they will inevitably pay the price.
Mystic,
Yes.
your 2 cents.
Yes. I mean, it's not a lot. This always happens where you ask for my 2 cents at this point. There's really not a whole lot to add. I mean, yeah, these are all great things that need to be discussed at some point, but never is there going to be a person that can be the mouthpiece for that, because everybody's at a different stage of their thing. Just like if somebody asks me, well, how do you reconcile the fact that you're not going out and milking a lamb because it's in bulk? Well, I didn't know about that, and I've been doing this for 20 years. What does that even mean? There's too many situations in the way all of this goes together that we're not going to get an answer about the life's questions from one person who represents one part of Christianity, or one person that represents one part of left-hand path, or one person that represents one part of being pagan. Just like I can't, be the mouthpiece for all gay people, and why gay people do some really stupid shit as a group, because we do. Especially, yeah. Anyway, I'm not going there because it's not appropriate on stream. But yeah, I mean, the we all know these things have happened, and we all know that they've been happening under the guise of Christianity. But is that because of Christianity, or is that because of the people that are underpinning Christianity, or is that because people are inherently bad when they have any kind of power? And that's a big part of the discussion. And I get that the organization that has given them the power to do that is Christianity in these cases. Catholicism is probably the worst one as far as having that built into the system. But it came from somewhere, and I don't think it came from the religion. It came from the people interpreting the religion, or reading the religion, or not understanding the religion, and all of those other things. So, I mean, there's never going to be an answer to it. There's never going to be an end where, everything says there's an answer. There just isn't. And we have to live with that. But the disadvantage, the treatment that I felt from the Southern Baptist Church, I, don't go out and have any issues with people who are Southern Baptist around here until they start screaming in my face that I didn't say it. Oh, that was good. It's a whole different thing. And it's just, there's a point where we have to say, we have to address and communitize. Just made up another word tonight. I hope somebody's writing these down. With individuals, not religions. This is a very good example of the labeling, where labels can be very bad because of that label is a barrier to some of the conversations that we can have. You know what I mean? And for me, the label of Southern Baptist is a barrier for me, but I recognize that is my personal barrier for my personal experience. But it can't be a barrier for all Christians. It can't be a barrier for all pagans. It can't be a barrier for all left-hand Pathrians. If that makes
Gotcha.
I've
It
been
does.
rambling
It
a lot
does.
lately, but the idea is really, w- we're all individual people, and nobody can speak to one thing or one answer, and we just have to say, look, I believe X, Y, and Z. I get it all the time with being pagan. I mean, that was it. I was a danger to the organization, and I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, I need you to tell me how am I a danger to the organization. Oh, well, you do witchcraft. I'm like, well, so do you every time you go to church every week and light the candle. You're doing candle magic. Next. Well, don't you go out in the woods and dance naked? Well, yeah. Are you jealous? Because it's really fun. You should try it. Okay. You probably dance naked on the beach, right? When you're drunk. Oh, yeah. Same thing. There's so much more similarities between all of these things than we ever give it credit for. And the sooner we stop pushing that as a separate thing, the better we'll be in the long run.
Hmm. And
I want
and
to go
and,
dancing naked at the beach.
and Mark, don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to hold you accountable for the things I'm bringing up, but again, I reiterate the point. This opportunity is rare. Like having somebody like yourself on the show willing to have a conversation. I do not
Well,
hold you accountable for anything that any other Christian person or any person ever in history has done. Nor do I expect you to have all the answers for the questions that I'm asking. But I'll never know what answers you have if I don't ask the questions, right?
no, I encourage you to continue asking these very types of questions because, and even though I don't have the answers to everything that you're asking, I do completely, I can get on board with the sentiment that you have. I see your heart behind it. Um, any Really, the way that I see it is that part of you that is disgusted by these types of atrocities and people taking advantage of other people in general. That is Christ in you. That's the way that I see it. So if you weren't upset or if you didn't have something in you that uh, was outraged at these types of things, then I would worry about your character, you know?
Well, correct me if
So,
I'm wrong. Jesus essentially before the advent, before the inception, not necessarily the advent, but the inception of Christianity, Jesus was a Jew, and my understanding, or interpretation rather, is that Jesus kind of came to tell the Jews at the time, hey, you don't need to have a holy law for what color clothing you need to wear on a Tuesday and what you can and can't eat.
yeah, they were washing the outside of the cup and not cleaning the inside of the cup. They were too bound up in all the details and they had lost the forest for the trees.
Mm-hmm. So I've always kind of held the idea in my head, with the research that I've done. If you want to be close to Christ, be a Jew. Don't be, you be Jewish. Don't be Christian, because Christianity was kind of created after the fact. I mean, again, that's just my idea, because he was born and raised a Jew.
Yeah, I mean, Paul talks about Christians as being part of the spiritual Israel. We're grafted onto the tree through adoption. So
Mm-hmm.
really, there is no difference between Jew, just like Paul said. There's no difference between Jew and Gentile, Jew and Greek. All humanity is the same, and that's kind of the point throughout
Mm-hmm.
Scripture. There was a group of people where the information was transmitted through, and that was the Jewish people. But ultimately, we're all one people, so it doesn't matter if Christ was a Jew or who he was. Really,
Mm-hmm.
it's just um, we're all the same.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I mean, grant you. So my experience with the church honestly extends in two denominations. It's Catholic and Mormon. are yeah, those are kind of like my primary kind of like examples of the church, and in some way, shape, or form, most other denominations has kind of fallen suit. I mean, fucking the Baptist church is, not too far off from the Mormons. But I do have to add into this. I do greatly appreciate your patience, your calmness, your collectedness, your respectfulness. Because to be quite frank, I've been a bit of an asshole through this conversation, and you have taken every single punch in stride, and I respect you greatly for that. And it's not that I am intentionally trying to be an asshole. I just am. There's a reason why I'm Mr. Malice.
We could call you Mr. Asshole Malice, but then you'd be ma'am.
True, I would be. But Mark, you're always a pleasure to talk to. I have nothing against you at all.
I like your feisty character, Malice. So don't change that part of yourself.
I mean, I try to be as respectful as possible within the context of the things that I'm inquiring about, and I couldn't have asked for a more level-headed interviewee being bombarded with the shit that I'm bombarding you with. And because I even see my chat, like the chat is like, you're like, at the beginning, everyone said hi to you, like literally everybody typed, hi Mark, hi hello Mark, like everybody went that way, and everybody's being super respectful, and like I'm the only one being a jackass, and you've been amazing. You have been absolutely amazing. You are welcome in my community anytime. Just don't try to convert anybody.
I won't. I'll just throw out the little mystical nugget here and there. Yeah. As long as you can tolerate it.
No, I can. So I do have one other question though.
Hold on.
Okay, I'm holding.
You said mystical nugget. Can we pause on mystical nugget, please? Like, that's my next name. Mystic Nugget. Somebody's going to take it now. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Nuggies? I had to do it before I lost it. I'm tired.
Right. No, it's all good. It's all good. So the other question I have, which has nothing to do with the church or anything, it's about you personally. Do you feel like a personal responsibility to try to, in some way, shape, or form, save the souls of the people that you come in contact with?
Not really. No, like I said, it's the Christian way is about internal metamorphosis. So, of course, when I meet other people, I'm excited to share ideas with them. We have a thirst as human beings for something beyond us. We have a thirst for the infinite. So if I can share some of that with you, and we can jive on that spiritual level to some degree, then that's extremely joyful. I mean, to me, that's a good evening spent. I can have a good conversation that goes deep. Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I personally feel having a community of people that the majority of my community is left-hand path, with a few pagans here and there, like my co-host, to have a Christian among us that is respectful to us, understanding of what it is that we're trying to do, that merely expresses their ideas respectfully. Chat, that's fucking progress. That's progress. That is a move forward. To have somebody like Mark in our community, though he will never light a candle to any demon we light a candle to, it's progress, because he's never going to damn you for lighting a candle to your demons, to your devils, to your deities. This is the type of communication that we need. This is what we need. Again, don't try to convert anybody. No, but seriously though, Mark, like, it's a pleasure. And go ahead, Mystic.
There needs to be a new a periodic section with Mark called Mystic Nuggets with Holy Mustard.
I love it. I love it, man. Yeah.
I'm beside myself. Yeah, no, this was very nice. As always, I don't talk near as much as Malice does. I get caught up in listening and just like thinking about things, and I just forget or mute myself because the dogs are barking. But it has certainly been a very, very, very wonderful discussion.
Well, I want to ask a question to the chat. Chat, my lovely demons, my beautiful community. Those of you that I do this for, what say all of you to having a Christian in our community? How do all of you feel about having a Christian in our community? All right, Benjamin goes right, holy semen. All right, well, you know.
I'm standing in the judgment, man.
Shit.
Rook loves it.
I know I'm not.
Is allies are a good thing.
I know I'm not the chat, and I've already said my piece, but going along with a couple of comments that I've made in there, you know, I might be partial to certain people, but just the ability to have the conversation, regardless of anything else, to me is a hugely welcome thing. So, like, I'm not the only rainbow vomiting person that you keep calling out.
Jerry can't be inclusive without him, so yes.
I like that.
Horror mysteries, I like what horror, as long as they behave themselves. Yeah.
Well, this is proof, right? This is proof of another piece of proof that we need to see that there are people in different religions and areas that we can get along. And for everyone that we get along with, an angel gets its wings.
Benjamin says, okay, as long as there's no converting me.
Oh, dear God, that's going to be a line. I won't convert you, Benjamin, I promise.
Well, Mark, it looks like the community. It looks like the community accepts you. I can't argue with the community, man.
I love it. I got my gang initiation.
It reminded me, Rook just posted something in there, building on a foundation and change now. One of the individuals that when he first started, and I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this, he took like a Wiccan class. And one of the really big important things that this person said when she was teaching him, and he shared it with me, and I really liked it, is that, you know, whatever religion you came from, she was like, don't treat that like crap. Don't throw it away. It's part of your life. You build upon it. There are good things to learn from all religions, unless there's like a religion of literal baby sacrifice or something, then that's not a good one. But you know what I mean. But it was really nice. It kind of goes along the whole thing. I woke back up. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's great. I think for what it is that we're trying to do and what it is that I want to do with the community, I think that it is an important thing to show and say we can be a community and still have someone that, for all intensive purposes, is the complete polar opposite of everything that we stand for. I have Okay, hold on a second. He's gonna be pissed that I do this, but sorry. I have my Baphomet right here.
He nipples.
Yeah, I love my Baphomet. I do view Baphomet as an actual entity. I don't look at Baphomet as a representation, but I think that me as being someone of the left-hand path and worshiping Baphomet and having, I'm pretty sure that like Mark is over there like cringing behind like his unviewable camera. But
Not at all.
you know, to have somebody
Dispelling
like
myths.
Mark, to have somebody like Mark in the community is the true representation of Baphomet. It is true balance. It is balancing. So I think that there is something that we need to learn from this. We need to learn from Mark. Maybe not convert. Hopefully not convert, but learn. Learning does not mean converting.
If that's the true path and somebody goes for it, that's great.
I mean, hey, to each their own, but I love my Baphomet. So, very long time working with Baphomet, which is why I'm writing the book. Right? Mark goes, thy shalt not worship idols.
Only false idols.
No, we got icons in the Eastern Church, so the Protestants think that we're idol worshippers.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, the whole thing of thou shalt not worship any other graven image other than thy Lord God, for thy Lord God is a jealous God. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. That statement in and of itself just, yeah, God's like us. He's human. Because like you would think that God, being a perfect creature, wouldn't feel jealousy, because jealousy is a very twisted emotion, but you know, there it is by his own admission. But Mark, thank you very much for being on here. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? I mean, do you have any socials, anything people can follow you on?
No, I'm not really putting myself out on the internet, just hanging out with you guys. So thanks again, and once again, thanks for the respect as well. And I look forward to future conversations with you.
Yeah, same here.
As well. So
yeah, definitely, man, definitely. All right, so I mean, we're gonna close it out. So if you wanna bounce, you can bounce. I appreciate you being here, man, and I do look forward to future conversations with you.
all right, have a good night, guys.
Yep,
Bye-bye.
have a
You
good
too.
night.
Peace out. Chat. Oh, Mystic. We can only see the
Shit,
top
that
of
was
Mystic's
loud.
head now. Hold on a second. We have to adjust Mystic here, because now we can only see the top of his head.
Just the tip.
Just the tip. There you are. I'm not gonna fuck with the rest of it. Chat. What do you think? What did you think of that? Well, what did you think of that conversation? I wouldn't call it an interview. It was a conversation. Well, chat. What did you think? How do you feel about having kind of like those polarized views being kind of like presented? Which, by the way, I mean, Mark was very, very respectful.
His views aren't very polarizing.
That's the thing, right? They're not.
They're not very polarizing.
They're not.
But it is also a measure of his ability to have a conversation and to, be honest about what you do and don't know, and just be a good person, which somebody mentioned in the chat. I thought that was a very important point. But I mean, if there's a mark out there, then there's got to be other marks. So it gives hope for a positive, whatever things happen when people get along.
Well, I think that was absolutely amazing.
I want to learn more. I'm not interested in myself and changing anything. I actually really feel like I've found my path, and who knows, it may change in so many different ways. You never know. But I'm interested in learning more about that specific kind of denomination,
Eastern?
and what's different about it. Yeah.
Same here. I'm interested. No, I've definitely found my path. I will never abandon Baphomet or the deities that I work with. As many of you in the chat know, I'm working with Payman, Baphomet, and Hell. I will be uploading a video soon. So far with my progress with Payman. Anybody that's interested in working with King Payman, I will be uploading a video in regards to that soon. Yeah, look out for that. So coming in the next week or so, there's going to be a video on that. But I enjoyed that conversation. Was I a bit? Chat, you tell me. Was I an asshole? Chat. Was I being dickish in that conversation? Well, what do you think, chat? Honest opinions only. We're the left-hand path. Not at all. If you start riding a camel. Maybe you never know. No, okay. As long as you guys, are with me and don't think I was being an asshole. Chat, if you ever think I'm step over the line on anything, feel free. You could have gone harder. That's what she said. I'm sorry, I had to, Jurian. Yeah, I mean, I do like being respectful, Chad. If somebody that's speaking to me is being respectful, I don't want to be a complete dick. Like I find no benefit in being an asshole for being an asshole's sake. She did say that. So I think that was a good, enlightening conversation. I'm be honest, I probably would like to have him on again to kind of talk a little bit more about like what it is that he does, because I kind of jumped him with the 20 questions there. Just to kind of get kind of like a deeper kind of understanding of what it is that he does. Do expect more pre-recorded content, guys. There is more pre-recorded content coming. I am putting things together. I just needed you guys to get that taste out of your mouth for LFM. I will not be reacting to LFM again. There will be no more LFM reactions. I will react to people. If you guys have a suggestion of somebody you would like me to react to that is not LFM, let me know. Shoot me a message, and I will do a reaction if I find the content, within the spectrum of what it is that the channel is about. Obviously, if your, suggestion is way to fuck off base, it's not going to happen. But, I will do my best. So, there's that. So just shoot me a message. Feel free. If you guys would like, I know a lot of people liked it when Mystic and I reacted together to a couple of things. So if you guys would like Mystic and myself to react and give our thoughts about something, let us know, and we can do it. We can do a couple of pre-recorded videos on the channel for the both of us. But at this particular junction, my lovely demons, thank you so very much for being here. You guys are fucking amazing. You guys are beasts. You are the true manifestation of power of yourselves. Believe that. Live that. That is the truth. And may the demons and the devils guide you. I hope Satan blesses you, and that Lucifer crowns you. That is going to be it for this evening. You guys have been fucking amazing, and we will see you next week. Peace out, guys. Bye.